Hello everyone. Let's head on to our first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for being disgusted and just saying okay when my fiancé broke up with me? I, 28, had been with my fiancé, Alex, 34, since 2020. We met at a friend's party, hit it off, and had been together ever since. He finished his doctorate in economics just last year. Since then, he has been working at the uni. I have my master's in media sciences and decided to start working instead of going for a PhD. Okay, so the problem is that Alex broke up with me last Monday. It was literally so surreal and honestly, just weird. For the past few months, he'd been acting strange. He was making demands and then dropping them immediately. A few examples, he told me we were going to paint our walls back from dark green to white. When I asked why, he just said, for fuck's sake, forget it, and never brought it up again, even when I asked. Another time, he came home and got mad because I was sitting on the couch with my head covered in a blanket. I had cramps. He was upset because I was just sitting there watching Netflix. Mind you, the house was spotless. When I tried to talk about it, he said, forget it, it's not a big deal. This kind of thing became common. Every time I tried to communicate, tried to figure out what was going on, whether it was something I did or maybe he was just stressed at work, he would just say everything was fine, but he was clearly seething with rage. I didn't even have to do anything. He would find something to complain about: the apartment, clothes, me, work, etc. So, I gave him space, which apparently was also wrong. I told him I was going to help my parents with repairs for a few days, and somehow that was also wrong because he wanted to renovate the apartment too. Then, on Monday, I got a text saying we needed to talk. I knew what was coming, and after the last few months, I had made peace with it. When I came home, he was sitting on the couch. He didn't even wait for me to take off my jacket before saying, I want to break up. Then the verbal diarrhea started. He told me he resented me. First, because I didn't pursue my academic career further, even though I was capable, and he didn't want to upset me at the time. Then, when I started making more money, since he didn't make much as a PhD student, he felt like I should have the last word financially, and he hated it. Mind you, I never said anything like it's my money, so I have the final say. That's a rule he imposed on himself, and he hated it. He said he hated our paint scheme, the couch, and even our fucking crockpot. Then, he told me he had rejected a better PhD program to stay here because I had already started my job by the time he got the acceptance letters. Only, he never told me he had even applied overseas. He said a few months ago he checked in with a friend who's in that program, saw how they were thriving, and decided I ruined his life. He said I had too much control over his life and that he hated the idea that I could just decide not to pay for things and fuck him over. I honestly don't even know what that means. He also said he hated that all his friends loved me and didn't let him vent about me. Then he said again, I'm done. I was floored. I had already made peace with the idea that we were ending and it hurt, but after that rant, I was just disgusted. I looked at him, probably with a disgusted expression, and said, okay. He lost it. He said this is exactly what he meant, that it was horrible. We had been together for 4 years, and all I had to say was okay to our breakup. I just asked if he wanted to stay here while he figured out where to go. He said, typical, of course you're holding the apartment over me, and started renting again, so I just left. I told my parents, and they're also confused. My dad suggested I reach out to our landlord and explain the situation to see what options I have. I can keep paying the rent no problem myself. He covered the utilities and some subscriptions. Just to reiterate, I never had a problem with this. I saw that he was chasing his dream and that was more important to me than a 50-50 financial split. I make good money and am happy at my job. I never saw it as slaving away. I always had the mentality that my money was our money because we were building a life together. Of course, I had my own savings and fun money, but I honestly never cared. As long as I felt he was working towards something and wasn't taking advantage of me, I was fine with it. More than fine. Alex is still mad. He's going between texting me like a robot about the logistics of the split to being a seething asshole complaining about everything. I'm not even hurt anymore. I just feel nauseated by him at this point. I don't know. Should I have reacted differently? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Lay down your ruling in the comments section and let's move on to our next story. Case 2. Am I the bad person for telling my wife to stop crying about missing out on our daughter's wedding? As the title says, my wife, 53F, and I, 55M, have 3 children. Brett, 27M, Amy, 25F, and Lynn, 24F. Now let me say, I love all my children in their own way. But no child has ever given me a headache like Glenn. She's our wild child. Got a college degree at 16, began working and saving up, moved to Louisiana once she turned 18, got more college degrees, and lives a pretty nice life. I'm proud of her, of course, but she has always been our wildly independent, argumentative, intelligent little girl. She's the more social one too. She's covered in tattoos, piercings, and always has funky hair. I'm proud of her, I love her, but she's always been our non-traditional child. Lynn met her, now, husband, Brad, 27M, when she first moved to Louisiana. Brad is like Lynn, tattoos and piercings of the wazoo. Non-traditional. He's a good kid, I like him. He protected Lynn and has been by her side for a lot of things. I actually love that kid for protecting my baby girl. Lynn will be the first child of ours to be married, so when we heard the news about their engagement, my wife was super excited. She started talking about wedding planning and all that girl stuff. Lynn and Brad were both upfront about not wanting a wedding and just wanting a small party with mainly family and some friends as a celebratory thing. My wife was very upset and pushed at Lynn till she reluctantly agreed to plan a wedding. Not even a week into wedding planning, Lynn and my wife had a spat about floral arrangements, which led to Lynn flying back home to Louisiana. Lynn announced they had eloped and would be planning a small intimate get-together in New Orleans around Halloween time. My wife lost it. Her and Lynn got into a huge argument over the phone, which led to them both not speaking. My wife cries every time this situation is brought up, saying she missed out on her little girl's special day. After a few weeks of this nonsense, I finally snapped and said, "Why are you surprised? Lynn didn't want a wedding in the first place. She's our least traditional child. I'm just glad we at least have the engagement announcement. Stop crying about it and wait till Brett or Amy get married, cause they are the ones that will actually enjoy that wedding shit." My wife called me a few names and has been avoiding me. I really don't mean to be an asshole, but Lynn is the last child I'd expect to want a big grand wedding. I mean, for fuck's sake, she's a nurse that does hair on the side who is also a practicing witch. That child makes no sense. I'd more expect Brett to want a big wedding when he and his boyfriend eventually get engaged. It also just felt wrong she tried forcing it on Lynn. What do you guys think of this one? Let us know in the comments section, and let's move on to our next story. Case 3. Am I the bad person for kicking out my dad after he said he couldn't afford to feed me anymore? Here's the backstory. 28M, got my own house now. Moved out at 18, not really by choice. My dad basically pushed me out. Our relationship's been rocky since then. He's always been a huge drinker and smoker, which caused plenty of issues back then. Fast forward, he lost his house a couple of months ago, didn't keep up with long payments. So he calls me up, says he needs a place to stay while he gets back on his feet. I laid out a few ground rules: either pay rent $400 or cover groceries about $250 to $300, and absolutely no smoking in the house. He laughs, says I'm your father, I shouldn't have to pay. But I don't budge, so he reluctantly agrees to buy groceries. From the moment he moves in, it's just one problem after another. Leaves a mess everywhere, doesn't clean up, smokes inside even though I made it clear that's a no-go, and drinks like there's no tomorrow. Then, one day, I have a girl over, and he just has this meltdown over it. So I tell him, listen, if he can't respect my space, he'll have to find somewhere else to stay. Things settle for a bit. But last week, he hits me with, I don't have the money to buy groceries this month. I'm like, why? He says, well, you eat a lot, and admits he spent all his cash on smokes and drinks. That was it for me. I was done with him acting like he owned the place, done with the flashbacks to dealing with him as a teen. I told him to pack up and leave. So, am I the bad person? I set clear boundaries, he didn't follow through. You've sat down, you've listened. Now, it's time to state your ruling. What is it gonna be? Let us have it down in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more cases like these. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.